China's killing our canola. $45 billion gone. Western farmers bleed. Mark Carney? Silent. Made millions off Beijing's dime. He won't fight. He's Beijing's banker, not our prime minister.
Hello, Western Standard viewers. My name is Shaun Polczer, and I am the business and energy reporter here at the Western Standard, where we try to bring you all the news and views and events from a uniquely Western Standard and Western perspective, and we're going to start doing that with business and money. We thought it would be kind of a good idea, seeing how Calgary is the business capital of Canada and the energy center, one of the major energy centers of the world. So hopefully this is going to be a weekly conversation is how I would like to put it, with guests and some movers and shakers here, and not just from the energy world, but from all the other business sectors that make our community here in Calgary. So that would include agriculture, transportation, and Calgary is home to some of the biggest names in Canada, and it is a major corporate center. So we are going to try and shed a little more light on it and bring it a little more down to earth. Sometimes when you're dealing with these business stories, it comes at you from a very high level, and we're going to try to bring it down and onto a very personal level. A little bit about me. I have been, and I'm Edmontonian, don't hold it against me, born and raised, came to Calgary in 1999 during the Y2K crisis. At the moment, the world didn't end. I wound up staying here in Calgary. I've been here for 25 years as a business and energy reporter covering the upstream industry here in Calgary, which I'm sure that most of you have been associated with one way or another. My grandparents were farmers out in Manitoba. My uncle was a dairy farmer, so we're all very Western, and it's very ingrained here at the Western Standard, as you well know. So we've got a lot to talk about, given some of the developments with tariffs and trade and the federal election, and just in the middle of it all, how your portfolio is doing. I don't know about yours, but I know mine is pretty much underwater. I've got a list of Calgary-based Canadian companies here that we're going to keep track of, including, but not limited to, people like TELUS down today, Cenovus down today, ATCO down today, $5. Weed Corporation, we've got Weed in Calgary, Canopy Growth, PetroChina, they have an office here. We're looking at some Canadian currencies. My vacation index is up. Canadian dollar up against the US. It's up against the euro. It's up against the Mexican peso. So we're all doing fine there. And we're going to look forward to coming weekly Tuesdays here with some guests. I got John in the studio, and just wanted to say welcome. And we're going to start off our show with Julie Lemieux from Triple Point Resources. She's going to come in and talk to us about salt domes off of Newfoundland. What does a salt dome have to do with energy in Calgary, you may ask? Well, it takes a lot of engineering expertise, and we're also talking about hydrogen, and hydrogen is going to be a major backbone of Alberta's future energy economy. That's according to Premier Smith, who is a huge backer of it. They do it a little bit differently on the East Coast than we do here, but it is still an interesting story. And after that, we are going to talk with Peter Merrick and Adrian Spitters, the co-authors of It Starts With Gold, to tell you how to maintain your personal sovereignty and your personal liberty in these challenging financial times. So hope to stay with us, and we'll get right at it. And we're here today with Julie Lemieux, the president of Triple Point Resources.
Yes.
Resources. Triple Point Resources, which has innovative energy solution for hydrogen out in Newfoundland. Welcome, Julie.
Yeah, welcome.
First episode.
Thank you for having me.
First guest.
Yeah, thank you.
We met last year at the Petroleum Show. and we did a little interview, and you kind of filled me in on some of the things that were going on. The company has a salt dome, special geological feature, which people, petroleum geologists here in Calgary would be familiar with.
Yeah, and they will be excited about it as well.
And you're based in Calgary.
Yes.
Precisely for that reason, that the energy expertise is here in Calgary.
Yeah, and people know a lot about salt cavern storage. It's been used in the oil and gas a lot. And on the East Coast in Newfoundland, we have a salt dome that's very unique. It's the only one that is proven right now. And we want to develop it for making on-demand clean energy and creating a reserve of energy for Canada. There's a lot of wind in Atlantic Canada, and we can harness every bit of it using salt cavern storage. So that's why we want to develop it for clean energy.
Now, hydrogen, there's been a lot of talk about hydrogen and how it's going to fit in the energy mix. And out west here, we're primarily concerned with making it from natural gas. But out on the east, you can also make hydrogen from electrolysis, right?
Yes.
So your solution would be to take that energy and then store it in the salt dome?
So a salt dome, the beauty of it is very versatile. And right now what we believe is we will store energy as compressed air energy storage. So we can use the electron, the excess energy from the wind farms and store it on the ground. So we can start accumulating that excess to use it for peak demand. So the project that are moving towards building massive not salt cavern, but the wind farm field, they can have usage of that excess energy. So it will stabilize the grid.
Right.
That's something that is very important. If not, you need to oversize your project to power yourself up. And we know that the renewable is not always available. So how you will make it available is to use salt cavern storage. That's the low-hanging fruit, and it's well known. Like in the oil and gas, we've been using salt cavern storage for a decade.
Well, so like you said, that's a problem with renewable energy here in Alberta is the intermittent and the lack of storage. Like with oil and gas, you can put it in a tank, right? Yep. So my understanding is that, regardless of what anybody thinks of renewable energy, but the key to renewable energy is going to be this energy storage so that you could, and transportation as well, right?
Yeah, that's really the missing link to include more renewable energy into the energy mix. And we can also accumulate hydrogen as well. So we can do so much with those salt cavern, but it will become very essential to integrate all the power that we have from the wind out there. In the hydrogen sector, we know that the green hydrogen is very, it's a very difficult market right now, but it will come. I'm just back from Germany. You can tell that they're moving towards having a lot more hydrogen in their energy mix. They're ready for that. They have major projects that are moving forward. I think it's a bit slower than what we were expecting, but we will be there for that as well, and we can become a real export hub. And that's why the German and the European, they're relying on trusted allies to provide them with more and more energy. We can be there. We have the wind, we have salt cavern, so that's the combination we need to be able to, like I said, I think we'll take care of our needs first, and then we can think about exporting and continuing to be an energy powerhouse. But this one, clean energy, I think it's very, very attractive.
I noticed you're wearing your green hydrogen, and I'm wearing my blue hydrogen.
Yeah, exactly.
So this energy corridor, transatlantic energy corridor to Germany, this was one of the outcomes of the meeting between former Prime Minister Trudeau and the German Chancellor Olaf a couple years ago, when they were talking about no business case for LNG, so they went for hydrogen instead.
Yeah.
But you can put hydrogen on a boat and float it out to Europe, can't you, in the form of ammonia?
You can do that. We see now that there is also methanol that are starting to gain traction. And there's, the liquefied hydrogen. I think it's a long shot. It would take a lot more, but there is liquid organic.
Floating bombs.
Yeah. There's liquid or organic that is also gaining traction. You have company here in Calgary, Ayrton Energy. They're developing technology to transport liquid organic hydrogen. I think it's all those ideas. We should not discard any of them. We need to try it, it's amazing how we see the best engineer in the world looking at finding solution to integrate more renewable, more clean energy. And now you start to have big stride between university here in Canada, in Europe, and technology is advancing very quickly.
Sure.
So for us, the fact that the hydrogen sector is not, let's say, moving as quick for the green product because it's still very expensive.
Right.
I think the technology is advancing so much quicker now. We have electrolyzers that are twice as good as the one from 2 years ago. So it's coming, and we'll be there for that.
So to be clear, you're not in the business of manufacturing hydrogen, and it's just storage at this point.
Yes.
So you're kind of like the intermediary to.
Yeah, we're the kind of the midstreamer.
The midstreamer.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. That's I like that.
But one thing that we can all agree on, we may agree or not on the green hydrogen and the future of it, but one thing we agreed on is we need more power.
Sure.
And the power line is just above our head at Fischl. So the dome is very well positioned on the Trans-Canada Highway. The power line is just above our head. We're 30 kilometers from a major port. There's a second one as well. We're like direct line 10 kilometers away from the ocean. There's not that much population around the dome itself. Right. And the footprint we will have using salt cavern storage is very minimal. So I think it's something that needs to be in the mix for the energy transition. And we're happy to develop it.
So why did you choose Calgary as headquarters for the company?
Well, it's the capital of energy for Canada. And there's also, it is also a place where you can find a lot of people from Newfoundland and Labrador. There is a lot of them. And that's what I was, for me, targeting, like having people that understand oil and gas, that can understand very quickly the advantage of salt cavern storage, and finding individual from Newfoundland and Labrador that maybe want to go back home, or they want to give a chance to Newfoundland and Labrador to have a good start with this asset, where it can create new opportunities for people that are still there, and it's on the clean side of it. So they're very attracted by that. So we have two individuals at our office, Daryl Downey and Bill Bass. They were both with Suncor Energy, and they retired from that. And I think the day they retire, they move, and they would move mountain for this project. So it's very interesting to have them with us.
So what kind of timelines are we talking about, and what do you think the size of the market is going to be? You know, like you said, obviously it's a big growth area.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
but nobody really knows what the size of the prize.
Yes, but the size of the prize for, like I said, for power, and power can come from compressed air and can come from using hydrogen locally as well. We don't need to export it. We can consume it locally and create more power for that grid. So all the Atlantic region can access that, and we can integrate all the renewable from all the other provinces as well. There's a lot of space in the dome to scale over time. So we believe that if we have the green light after environmental study, after a good consultation with local population and local communities, in anytime between 4 to 5 years, we can be operational. So I think that makes it very interesting to be ready for 2030, where there's a lot of provinces, a lot of groups that make commitment for 2030, 2035. Let's see what's going on. But this is for the cost of a project like this compared to other way of bringing power to the grid, like dam, it can be quicker. It's less money, and it stabilizes the grid and create more firm power over time with a very small footprint. So it makes it very attractive.
Absolutely. So in terms of investment and funding, where do you guys sit with that? You're still a private company?
We're still a private company. At this stage, we plan to go public at one time when the condition will be right. So right now we are, like always looking at opportunity for non-dilutive investment if you want. So there is some grant available. There is some loan you can have, but we'll need to have more money coming in the company to pursue. And then I think there's a lot of interest on the future. Once the feasibility is done, there's a lot of company that can be interested to partner with us. We're de-risking a lot with local consultation, very good relationship with the government. The government in Newfoundland and Labrador is highly supportive. Newfoundland Hydro is highly supportive of this project. We just need to go through the process, complete the feasibility, and then we'll have a lot of funds, private equity, maybe, but like the typical way of financing project through.
Is that another reason to be here in Calgary?
It is one of the other reason. I'm sure at one point, we have a small office in St. John's, but we'll have an office closer to the Dome. We have someone working there right now, but opening an office locally will be something that's very important and provide opportunities to local people, something that's very important for us as well. And it's coming. We just need to attach the financing, complete the feasibility, and we are, looking for a great engineering firm from Newfoundland and Labrador to be part of this.
Excellent. What about offshore interest? Is there interest from European investors or, say, from the States?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have right now part of our investor. We have investor from Norway. We have an investor from London, England. We have investor from the state as well. There is a lot of interest. People that know about salt cavern storage, they understand and they believe this asset needs to be developed for the future, for the transition. So we need to find more believers, and I think we can find more believers here in Canada, and this project will be developed.
Yeah, like oil and gas people would know that salt domes down in the Gulf of Mexico. Am I allowed to call it the Gulf of Mexico? But that's basically the oil play. Yeah, Gulf Coast. That's how we get around it. But it's all salt domes in Louisiana and South Texas and in that whole area. Yeah,
and same thing in Europe. They are very well aware of salt cavern storage. In Germany, they have hundreds of caverns. In France, they have a lot of caverns as well. It's part of their mandate to have energy reserve. So they need to keep a reserve of 60% all the time.
Right.
In Europe, in the EU. So they are very well aware of this. So the fact that we can offer them storage, they can ask for stockpiling on this side of the ocean. That's something that is very intriguing for them, but it starts to sink in. They don't have, a lot of their salt cavern have been used for oil and gas purposes.
Sure.
And now they're looking at stockpiling off-site, and we can be a site for them as well.
So what kind of dollar figures are we talking about to get up and running in terms of a project? Is that public?
Is that public? Well, we're just at the pre-feasibility level. So we looked at it. We know it can be competitive. We know it will bring value, and we know it's 10 to 12 times less expensive than building like a dam, as an example. And like I said, a lot quicker. So if you know how it costs to build a dam, then 10 times less, you will have an answer there. But we believe it will become an asset for a generation to come. We hope to have Indigenous participation in the project as soon as possible, and it will be developed over time. We'll not develop the entire dome right away. This is
Right.
the massive
Be
asset.
done in chunks.
Yeah, so the first cavern, hopefully first 1 or 2 cavern in the next 5 years, and then let's see where the market will go, and who knows?
Sounds great. Well, good luck, and I guess we're going to see you down at the oil show. We're going to be at the oil show this year, and
Definitely I will be there.
congratulations,
Yeah.
and hope everything goes well.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Hi, we're back here with Business Standard, the Western Standard's weekly business show, and we've got a couple guests with us, authors of a new book called It Starts with Gold. It's the history of gold and the world's most precious metal, and, you know, the cultural and financial significance of it all. That would be Peter Merrick and Adrian Spitters, our co-authors. Adrian is the son of a Dutch farmer, and Peter is a cross-border financial strategist. Designated expert, best-selling author, and keynote speaker with over 30 years' experience in business succession, estate planning, and financial sovereignty. His insights have appeared in the Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, and Dow Jones. Adrian is a private wealth advisor with 37 years' experience helping high-net-worth individuals protect and grow wealth, specializing in de-risk, tax-efficient portfolios with alternative investments like equity, real estate, commodities, and mutual life insurance strategies. And today they're here to talk to us about everybody's favorite precious metal, gold. What can you fellas tell us a little bit maybe about your book and about gold and where you see it going and why it's so important now more than ever, given some of the economic developments that we've had with U.S. President Donald Trump, tariffs, trade, and the ultimate medium of exchange?
Well, I want to share with you that the book is more encompassing than just gold. We called it, It Starts with Gold. It doesn't end with gold. There's a lot of changes that have happened that Canadians and people around the world have noticed. And we know this with the tariffs and everything and this skyrocketing of prices, inflation and everything. And what Adrian and I did is we looked at gold as being a foundation. It starts with gold. It doesn't end with gold. It represents de-risking your finances because it's stable, it's tangible, you can hold it, and we recommend that rather than actually having a piece of paper saying that you have a claim to it. And it is also about rematerializing your life to things that are important, such as community, useful skills, things that are useful. And in essence, we start working up to that. And Adrian and I have something that's called the 4 pillars. And Adrian, would you like to step in and share with a little more?
Well, the 4 pillars is how we basically de-risk clients' portfolios. And it starts with, if you read the book, we talk about the great financial confiscation, which is where there's a high risk of people losing their assets through confiscation, through collapsing of banks, financial institutions, etc. So we're looking at, okay, if you want to stay ahead of the curve of assets collapsing, what assets do you want to own in order of asset confiscation? And that would be, we start with gold as your foundation. It is your portfolio insurance, and it's one asset class that totally protects your assets throughout the ages. And then we look at alternative investments such as income-producing multi-family rental properties, self-storage, farmland, hard assets that generate income are a lot more secure, and they're also, you are a shareholder in these assets, or if you buy them directly, you have a much more secure title than if you bought into just say mutual funds or individual stocks. So then we work with a private portfolio management company that again has custodial relationship, so that the client's assets are the client's assets, not the institution where the investments are held at. Whereas if for example, if you have money at a brokerage firm, those assets tend to be commingled with the broker. We want to put a wall between that, and then the final asset would be owning various financial investments held by mutual life companies, which are policy holder owned versus stock owned. And the whole idea is to put walls in front of your assets ahead of potential collapse in the system. So what we're looking at is, you can't just put it all in gold. It's not efficient, even though gold has done really, really well. There are times where it's flat. You need income. You need to have a semblance of normality in your portfolio, but structured in such a way that you can, as you see things unfolding, you can move assets to more secure assets along the way. So that's why we
that's a really good point, because Adrian and I were talking prior to the show, doing a little back and forth, and we have a common Dutch heritage where our grandparents went through the war, and we're talking about how the Nazis basically went and took everything that they could find, and Adrian's grandparents were farmers. My grandfather was a farmer, and you told the story about how they were taking the cows and shooting the cows, and so this is almost a cautionary tale, because it's actually happened within our lifetimes.
correct.
Can I share something just to add to that? One thing that we thought was very important, if we want to know where we are, we have to know where we've been. So what Adrian and I did in the book is we looked at things such as the foundation of the Federal Reserve, the Bank of Canada. What are these institutions? Are they public? Are they private? For example, right now in Canada, we're having an election, and you have Mark Carney, and a big wake-up call for me was when he was appointed to the Bank of England, because I'm thinking, how is this possible? He's not even British, because these are private banks. And we looked at what has happened in the past, what are all the white papers, because I don't want to scare people, but if you read what is, he addressed it in the book, and that's why we have the 4 pillars.
So, how is gold, say, compared to Bitcoin? Because you hear the Bitcoiners talk, and I did a couple seminars last year, and there's one coming up, and that it's protected from the government, and it's a libertarian kind of asset. Like, how would you compare it to gold?
Bitcoin is a intangible electronic. It's subject to, you need the internet to transact, and there are many fears out in our community that we are susceptible to cyber attacks, and so you have an intangible asset just like fiat money, whereas gold is physical, it's hard, it's real. You can take possession yourself or vault it in a secure vault, either in Canada or outside of Canada. So you have an asset that is protected, that can't be taken down, for example, should the internet come down. And we devote 2 chapters in our book on crypto, and we've identified threats that suggest that maybe Bitcoin, for example, is a Trojan horse, training grounds to teach people that getting familiar with the digital asset is okay. It starts out being an asset that is supposed to be totally outside the system, where now that they are inside of ETFs, like BlackRock's got, I think, one of the largest Bitcoin ETF out there. At first, BlackRock was against ETFs. BlackRock was against Bitcoin. Now they're for it. Why? Because they own an ETF for it. Larry Fink was just saying that just recently, that Bitcoin is the thing, but there's an ulterior motive. I think it's an asset that is going to basically entrap people, and at some point they're going to collapse Bitcoin, and then the government's going to come in, this is my theory, and say, well, we got a safer version, and that's the CBDC.
Can I add
CBDC?
to that?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, that's central bank digital currency.
Oh, I see. CBDC.
When we were doing our research on Bitcoin and crypto, first of all, no one knows who the creator of that is. And one of the things that most people have to consider is, outside of things that are tangible, if you're speaking digitally, they're able to track you. We all have been near someone's phone, and then we get on our computer, and then we see the ads of something we were just talking about show up. So there's these quantum computers can slice through this coding. But not only that, we're using the internet that was created by the NSA. And Snowden talked about it in 2013 when he was a whistleblower. We also, all crypto is based on the NSA's SHA 256, and that's an encryption. And that's what everything's built on. Now, I don't know if you guys have been following your viewers, but these quantum chips are scary. There was a quantum chip called Willow that did a calculation in 5 minutes that would have taken the second fastest at that time a quantum computer 15 septillion years. I don't even know what a trillion is basically, but a septillion is a trillion. So in essence, this is something that we have to be aware of, because that's why in our book, we look at everything that's happening. We dedicated 2 chapters asking questions. Who are these people? What is this? How can it be attacked? And our premise is you got to go back to the land. And you were mentioning that both of you have Dutch heritage. Both of you have farming in your blood. And in essence, it's getting back to real things. Because one of the issues that's happened, and I'm guilty of it, we've all gone digital. We've all gone into cyberspace. And unfortunately, it doesn't work. If things break down, if there happens to be a cyber attack, if the power goes down. I remember I'm from the East Coast of Canada, or I'm from Toronto. And in 2003, all the power went off on the East Coast. There were like 70 million people who were in the dark. It was beautiful. I didn't know there were stars over Toronto.
Yeah, we don't have the problem with the ice storms here in Alberta. Where it's a little bit different. It's just 40 below and wind. But that's ringing loud and clear for me. So one of the themes in your book is sovereignty, like personal liberty and personal sovereignty, and taking control over your own finances and your own life. And you've got something here called the Sovereign's Creed. Maybe you each can speak a few words to that and explain how it's important for our viewers.
Adrian, can you say the Sovereign's Creed? I'd like to explain it.
The Sovereign's Creed: to protecting our health, to protecting or to de-risking our wealth. It starts with gold. Very simple. And
I like to share what that means. So the Sovereign's Creed, it's like it's a battle cry. It's to tell, it's to get people up. And what we do is to sovereignty. And what is sovereignty? That means you have domain over yourself. And in essence, as a free person living in a free country, we have certain freedoms. And in essence, I don't believe a king or a government grants those freedoms. They're innate. So we say to sovereignty, to protecting our health, because we all know that the most important thing that we have is our health. I know as I get older, you guys are younger than me, but when they say health is wealth, you realize that as you get older. It's like when you're young, you don't take care of it. And no one has a right to tell you what to do with your health. You're a sovereign individual. To de-risking your wealth. And that's where we talk about how do you make sure that if everything goes crazy and everything starts collapsing, how do you still have assets that you can trade to live and protect your family and to grow your community? And the last sentence is it starts with gold, meaning it's a foundational asset. It's something that has lasted for millennium. And that is something that we're stressing. And it's not just gold, it's other precious metals, it's land, it's seeds, it's community, it's useful skills. That's what gold represents for us. And yes, it's the tangible, but it's also the intangible, which cannot have a price placed on it.
So where do we go from here? Where do you think it is all heading? Like what happens? Assuming that I don't know if anybody can predict it, but is it an inflection point? Is it a sudden break, or is it kind of a gradual thing that we all kind of ease into? What does the next era of financial security look like?
Well, right now it's gradual. They're putting in more and more and more controls to take away your assets. That right now, for the most part, you have beneficial ownership of your stocks and bonds. You don't have actual direct ownership. That was done as, convenience, where instead what happens is if you have your assets in a bank account, you're lending your money to a bank. And that's why you have CDIC insurance, because if the bank gets in trouble, those assets belong to the bank, and that's their collateral. So you get whatever's in the CDIC pool, and that's not going to be enough for if one of our major banks go under. And there's another legislation, I can't remember the year they brought it in there, but it was rather recently, after 2008. Peter knows the date. Is something called the bail-ins, where now the banks, they did a test in Cyprus and in Greece, and the bail-ins is set up where if there is a bank run and the banks get in trouble, the banks have the ability now to dip into your bank accounts and use that as collateral. And in exchange, they're going to give you securities of the bank. Well, what's the benefit or good of having bank stocks when the banks are going down? So you don't really want them to actually confiscate your assets and give you shares. So and then if you have a stock portfolio and a bond portfolio with a traditional stockbroker, those assets are also commingled with the institution, because they use your assets for futures trading, for all kinds of derivative trading. And again, it's they are higher up in the chain of creditors on your assets. So again, you're not going to get your money back. You might get a promise, a piece of paper or something that's going to say, no, you get share exchange. I don't know what that remedy is, but in most cases in history, those people are going to lose those assets, which is what's happened with SVB Bank in the States and the other banks that collapsed recently. Those people lost their assets that were unsecured. So getting around my thought.
Well, can I add to that? I'm a student of history. So if we want to know where we're going, we have to go to the past. So we have to look at our system is built on a fake fiat system. Since 1971 in the United States, they were moved off the gold standard. So it's just basically paper, printing paper. It has no value. It's just belief. If we look at Germany during the 20s, we saw inflation that no one ever saw before, knew it existed. And that's why we ended up with Hitler, because he was probably the most advanced country in the world, the greatest intellects. It just fell into chaos. We also looked in our book at the Yuan dynasty. They were the first empire to implement paper. What ended up happening is China collapsed under its own weight because the paper is worth nothing. And we all know about warlords in China, because that's how it happened. So what we do is we look at history, and we look at what's been put in place as well. And the part that's very scary is the people at the top in the financial system and all these great non-government organizations and all these unelected organizations like the UN, the IMF, the Bank of International Settlements. They've actually put in certain measures that when the system collapses, they'll own everything. And as Adrian was sharing, that most people have gone to sleep. And what I mean by that, in 2016, when the budget in Canada was released, everyone was talking about the things that were happening that year. But back in the back pages, that's the really good stuff. That's the stuff that they sneak in that Canadians don't know about. And they talked about a bail-in. And what that means is if a financial institution collapses, the financial institution can take all your assets. Now, is there a case for this where it's happened before? Yes, in Cyprus. Anybody who had more than $100,000 in a Cyprus bank had their money taken. The other example that we should be very concerned is what triggered the 2008, like when the great financial recession that we all remember, is Lehman Brothers went bankrupt, and its trustee and its main creditor was Morgan Stanley. They were a preferred creditor. That means all the people who had their money with Lehman, they basically didn't get their money because JP Morgan was a preferred creditor, as the judge said, and he pulled everything. And what's happened around the world is legislation has been passed that when things aren't great, people are going to go and find out that they own nothing. Because when we were investigating the book, we looked at something in the United States, which we have in Canada as well. They have the Depository Trust Corporation, where they dematerialized everything, your car, your house, your stock, everything. You don't own anything. And around the world, they push this too, where you have beneficial ownership. So what we make the case in the book is we don't make these claims. We show you exactly what happened, because it's important that if you're going to be a sovereign, you have to first know. Because by knowing, you're able to exercise the most powerful word that's ever been used in any language. And that's saying, no, I will not participate in this. And we talk about the tools. And Adrian spoke about the 4 pillars, because those are tools that we identified where you're still in the system. Because most important, you need community, you need useful skills, and you need assets such as seeds, land, things that are going, if things really went crazy. Imagine if the power went out for 2 weeks.
Right. Like it did in Ontario, like you were saying during the ice storm and down east.
Oh, I was the last street to get power back.
Well, you know, guys, this has been really eye-opening, and there are real-world examples, like you said, of this happening. Like I'm thinking Lebanon, it happened. Maybe not a complete run on the bank, but you know, we've seen examples in the news. I've written about them, like you said, the financial crisis, in various countries where the political situation becomes really sketchy. Trade follows wars. We had this discussion here the other day. You know, which comes first, right? The trade or the military, and it seems to all follow hand in hand. And you're talking about community and society and being able to have these skills and to be able to weather these storms. So, a really interesting talk. Unfortunately, we had to cut it a bit short. But there you go again, folks. It's All Starts With Gold by Peter Merrick and Adrian Spitters. And I would say it's essential reading. And thanks for coming on, guys. And I really appreciate it. Thanks for being part of our first ever business standard.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's it for today. We're going to wrap it up with a quick reminder to become members, westernstandard.news. Subscribe. All our coverage is free during the election campaign. And as Peter and Adrian were talking, we've got one of these WEF guys, unelected people trying to run for elected office. So it's important now more than ever to be informed and to stay abreast of some of these issues and how they affect you and affect your community and affect your personal sovereignty. So with that, we make an appeal to become Western Standard readers, subscribe, become members. It's a small investment and it will pay dividends over time. And thank you very much. And we'll sign it off here.